He was used to being overlooked. Retired and living a quiet life in a small fishing village, the Navy veteran spent his days maintaining his modest boat, mending fishing nets, and watching the horizon. His gray hair and weathered face told a story of a life lived in service, though few cared to ask about it. He had long accepted that his sacrifices and skills, once vital in the most dangerous seas, were now little more than a forgotten legacy. But on this particular day, the sea would demand his courage once again. It began with a call for help. A tourist boat, overloaded with passengers, had run into trouble just a few miles offshore. The Coast Guard responded swiftly, their vessel cutting through the waves with precision. The team was young, energetic, and confident, perhaps too confident. The veteran, standing at the docks, couldn't help but notice how casually they handled the situation. As he watched, he felt a familiar tension building in his chest. The waves were already beginning to swell, a sign of an approaching storm. Years of experience told him the situation could spiral out of control quickly. He approached the Coast Guard team and offered a quiet warning: "You'll need to act fast. The storm's coming in stronger than it looks." The young leader of the team barely glanced at him before responding dismissively. "Thanks for the tip, sir, but we've got this. You should head back inside where it's safe." A few of the others chuckled, amused by what they saw as unsolicited advice from an old-timer. The veteran simply nodded and stepped back, his gaze fixed on the growing waves. As the Coast Guard moved out toward the distressed boat, the storm arrived in full force. Dark clouds rolled in, and the wind howled across the water, whipping the waves into towering walls of foam. The veteran remained on the dock, his hands gripping the railing tightly. He could barely make out the Coast Guard vessel now, struggling against the increasingly violent seas. He could see what was about to happen before it did: the boat was too close to the waves' breaking point. Suddenly, a massive swell slammed into its side, and in a heart-stopping moment, the vessel capsized, leaving its crew and passengers stranded in the water. The crowd on the shore gasped in horror. The Coast Guard was trained, but even their best efforts were no match for the sheer force of nature. The veteran felt a surge of adrenaline. This was no time for hesitation. Without a word, he sprinted to his small fishing boat. It was nothing compared to the Coast Guard's vessel, just a modest, weathered craft, but he knew it better than the back of his hand. Years of experience on the open seas had taught him how to handle any situation, even one as dire as this. As he powered his boat into the storm, the crowd on shore watched in stunned silence. To them, it looked like a suicide mission, but the veteran's mind was clear and focused. He adjusted the throttle with precision, angling the boat perfectly against the waves. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and efficient. The wind and rain lashed at his face, but he didn't flinch. Every muscle in his body moved with purpose, guided by decades of knowledge gained through hardship and perseverance. When he reached the wreckage, the scene was chaos. The young Coast Guard officers were struggling to stay afloat, clinging to debris as waves threatened to pull them under. The veteran wasted no time. He threw out a lifeline, calling out instructions with a commanding voice that cut through the storm. "Grab the line. One at a time, stay calm." His tone left no room for panic, and one by one, the officers obeyed, their earlier arrogance replaced with desperate gratitude. The first officer pulled aboard was gasping for air. "We didn't see it coming," he stammered. The veteran gave him a firm nod, his eyes scanning the water for the next person in need. "The sea doesn't care about confidence," he said. "It only respects preparation." With steady hands and unmatched focus, the veteran continued the rescue, pulling every stranded officer and passenger aboard his small boat. The weight of so many people pushed the limits of his vessel, but he adjusted his course skillfully, keeping the boat stable even as the storm raged on. By the time the last person was hauled aboard, the entire group was huddled together, drenched and shivering but alive. The journey back to shore was tense. The waves still crashed against the boat, but the veteran navigated them with an almost supernatural calm. The young officers, once so dismissive, now watched him in awe. Every movement he made seemed to defy the chaos around them, as if he and the sea were old acquaintances locked in a familiar dance. When they finally reached the docks, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Families rushed to embrace their loved ones, and the Coast Guard officers stumbled onto solid ground, shaken but safe. One of the younger officers, still dripping wet, turned to the veteran. "How did you do it? How did you know exactly what to do out there?" The veteran paused, his gaze drifting back to the sea. "Experience," he said simply. "You don't rush it. You earn it." The officers, humbled and visibly moved, nodded in silent respect. It was a lesson they would carry with them for the rest of their careers. The crowd swarmed the veteran, offering thanks and praise, but he waved them off with a modest smile. His job was done, and he wanted no part in the fanfare. As he returned to his quiet life, the story of his heroism spread through the village and beyond. But to him, it wasn't about being a hero. It was about doing what needed to be done, just as he had always done. If you believe that experience is the greatest teacher, give this video a like, share it with someone who values wisdom, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.